Hi everyone, this is Chitika.
Hey everyone, this is Selena.
And you're listening to the second episode of our podcast, Working Knowledge. Welcome back. Thanks for coming back. We're very excited to keep this thing going. And if you did get a chance to tune into the first episode, do let us know what you think. We're always looking for feedback and like new ideas. But if this is your first time joining us, that's perfectly fine. You didn't miss too much.
By the way, someone said that it sounded like a 45-minute Misfits Market ad, and I thought that was so funny. It's like, oh god, it's okay.
I talked about Misfits for maybe
like
7 minutes.
It's okay.
Okay,
no, it's
10
fine.
minutes.
Misfits is a good
Maybe
thing.
they can sponsor us. I'll reach out to them. Who said
Okay.
that?
See.
Oh,
yeah.
thanks, C. As long as he orders from them, it's all worth it.
Yeah, okay.
If you are just joining us, we're friends from college, and this podcast is called Working Knowledge because that rhymes. It's called Working Knowledge because we're just trying to figure out life, basically, now that we don't have classes and things to tell us, give us new information anymore. So this whole like self-education thing is this new project that we're undertaking. And so on this podcast, we'll just be sharing like things we learn or, you know, kind of trying to discover new stuff together. The first kind of series of episodes is New Grads Now What? So last week we talked about, the episode was called Kitchen Adventures, and we just talked about like new things we've learned in the kitchen and related to the kitchen. And this week we are talking about like we don't have an episode title. So we will discover by the end of this episode, hopefully, whatever this title is going to be. But we are talking about like sort of unexpected professional development, like adjusting our career plans a little bit. Not the plans, but sort of our approaches to job searching and just like figuring out what to do as emerging professionals. That's
Quote,
technically
unquote,
the category
emerging.
we're in. Yeah. So
And we're also just here to catch up because we don't see each other very often. So
actually we haven't seen
Yeah.
each other since May.
yeah. Well, we probably won't see each other for a while either. So
I know, it's sad, but you know, we'll see each other virtually, and if nothing else, then this podcast is a way for us to stay in touch.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we both kind of wanted to start. I mean, obviously, we graduated in a time that's like really overwhelmingly difficult, I think, to graduate in. That's like the easiest way to say it.
As many people have been telling us, like, oh my god, like, class of 2020 got a raw deal. I'm like, yeah, you think we know
Yeah.
that? Thanks
Yeah.
for telling me that.
But I mean, I think it's like, in some ways, it's kind of a good opportunity for those of us that don't have full-time positions to find new hobbies and like maybe find another passion to do something in. I don't know. So we both kind of wanted to first talk about like our part-time jobs. I know like a lot of people don't even have part-time jobs, so like I don't want to like be like, oh, I have a part-time job. But I think it's interesting because we're both doing things that are like architecture or like design adjacent, but not necessarily what we initially had planned to do in the very beginning, which I think a lot of people are finding themselves doing nowadays. So yeah.
No, yeah,
it sucks, but
keep going.
I mean, like, yeah. I think it's just like we don't want to be like too disheartening during this episode, or at least I don't want to be, but it is kind of like a situation where we have to just make do with what we have. So what I've been doing, and I'm really very lucky that this has happened to me, is I have a part-time contracting design / front-end developing position with an old boss of mine. I worked for him like I think my second year summer internship. And I did like front end development and like design and graphic design stuff for a startup at that time. So he created a new startup, and then I just ended up working for him because he needed some like contract work. And it's been like a real blessing so far because he totally like understands the situation, and he's like willing to like give me work. But it's also like it's definitely not the position that I would have found or that I would have wanted to be in at this current point in time. So, but I'm learning a lot of things, I think, which is like good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like we were talking about this a bit, but there's this inevitable like and sort of loaded interview question that you sort of expect to hear whenever we do start to get like more active in our job searches. It's like, well, so what have you been doing since graduation, or like how have you been handling the sort of like job market, you know, as a professional,
or what have you learned
or as
in
like a
yeah
what have you learned, or like what have you done to like grow? And it's a hard question to answer. At least so for me, that's always been like, if I get too comfortable doing nothing, I'll just be like, oh, what am I gonna say if somebody asks me that? Which is maybe not the like, it's not as like secure or functional as like being motivated to do things because like, you know, internally or whatever, but it works. But yeah, I think that sounds like a really great position, because I think I remember like when you interned for your current boss, like back in
it was
second
back
year or
when we like started
so.
becoming really good friends, I think.
I think it was like that was when you were in San Francisco, right? Yeah. Oh, what I remember that time. Yeah.
Interesting situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For other reasons, but
yeah.
Second year was a good time. But it's like I'm in a similar situation, not in terms of the work, but in terms of like going back to somebody that I worked for over the summer. So last year I taught at I like worked through the Center for Architecture Explorations at our school. And so I taught some summer programs like on campus and then off campus at a really, really cool organization in Pittsburgh called Assemble. And because I was sort of on their like roster of teachers from last summer, and I also like ended up taking a class with their director and founder this spring, I sort of ended up on this email that they sent out, which was looking for part-time teachers to do their virtual summer programs. And so it was just this really quick thing. I responded absolutely yes. And then because I'd worked for them before, it was kind of, you know, smooth and streamlined. So I'm still teaching a few classes a week, but I wrap up like next week, I think is my last set of classes. Yeah. So I'm just going to be like, ooh, time to do something else now. It's great. I think it's like you said, it's like design related and adjacent. Of course, like I am using so many things that I learned in architecture school to do this work. I think it's one of those things where we're very lucky to have such a broad education. I think I know a lot of people feel like, architecture is like a very specific field, which in a way it is, but the way
it's also like the complete opposite. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. The way that I think it's like if you work as an architect, you do very specific tasks, but if you're an architecture student, you have to complete so much like basic training in all these different areas. You become very like a new architecture grad is very flexible in terms of what they know how to do.
Yeah.
So that's been useful in terms of like using things I learned. And it's also really nice to teach and interact with kids. You know, I was telling my supervisor earlier this week, I said how it was really good to have like at least a few days in the week where I focused on somebody else. So I had to like, we did this virtually, so I had to put on something kind of nice and cheerful in terms of like what I was wearing and how it just was. And you have to sort of get your energy up to get all of the students engaged, because I mean, if we're having a hard time being at home all the time, imagine being like a 10-year-old who's used to being outside and like with friends and doing things constantly. I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think both, I mean, you can talk about this a bit more, but you know, in your case too, you're using a lot of things that, I mean, you minored in like HCI, so and even in general, you're using a lot of things you like learned in school, and it is sort of like, what's the word, like maybe non-traditional professional development, or it's not like what we expected we would be doing to grow as professionals, but it is helping us
Yeah.
ultimately.
I mean, hopefully. I would hope so. I mean, yeah, I minored in human-computer interaction, and I do definitely agree that the architecture, or at least our architectural education, has been really diverse, and that it teaches you a lot of different skills that you can apply in different ways, which is one of the things that I always say in these like non-traditional like design positions, like the one that I'm in right now, is that even though I graduated with an architecture degree, I think I learned a lot of things that like other candidates maybe don't really know, with just like the design what do you call it, design method, or like different ways of processing, thinking about like space or something in a different way, whether it's virtual or physical. So
totally. No, that's a great way to put it. I think that's it's like plausible and sort of believable. You're not really stretching the truth as such, but it's also like unique. I think that's the sort of big thing that we have to learn how to do, especially now, is how do you convince the person like interviewing you, or just anyone, even yourself, frankly, like how do you take an opportunity that's, well, how do you, even for yourself, how do you sort of rationalize like what you've been up to as a sort of unplanned short-term part-time project, right? And how do you make it like part of your sort of long-term aspiration as a professional. I think, I mean, that's just, we can talk about that forever in terms of like school, right? Sometimes you take an elective, or you like get involved in like an org or an event, and you're just kind of like, I don't really know where this fits, and then you sort of look back, and then you're like, oh, that's where this came from. Or
well, that's kind of how I started in this human-computer interaction, or like even just UI UX design, is that like I started out by helping my friend who's colorblind pick out a color palette for his like summer project, and then it just ended up like obviously going way past that, but you never kind of know what skills you pick up in college, for us specifically, that led us to this. And I'm really glad that I did, because I think a lot of people are in a situation where they can't really find a position, even though our like what we're doing isn't necessarily what we want to be doing. It's something that we kind of enjoy doing. I think a lot of people are having trouble even finding that right now. So I'm glad that I like took the time to find these skills previously, to like even have the opportunity to do something that I like kind of enjoy, but maybe don't like love,
Yeah, or you don't wow. Sorry, I'm watching like the bar on Audacity, and that little it just shot up. So I feel like I said a very loud 10 seconds
That's because
ago.
you were quiet before, and now you're
I know. It's just the app was like, oh, what's happening? Sorry.
Just don't look at it.
But I was gonna say, I think it's one of those like the takeaway from this, or the learning is, say yes to things even if you're not completely sure like why they're useful, quote unquote, or like what is like, just because something doesn't directly translate into a resume line item doesn't mean it's not worth pursuing, or it doesn't mean it's not going to ultimately become something that is now like relevant in your career. I mean, I always like enjoyed working with like students and kids, but I was never kind of like clear how it would be incorporated into my career as a designer and architect, But the more time I have spent like teaching these classes, and then this summer it was virtual, and then like because of the last summer job I like continued into the spring, and then I did like about Saturday sequence and stuff. So I used to teach like on the weekends during the semester, and then you learn a lot, because of course all these camps are like architecture related, so I am teaching design fundamentals, and it's like good to, I don't know, sometimes you get lost in like the way you do it in school and studio, right? And it's different to teach like an 8-year-old about spatial thinking.
It's also really good for you. Super different to like teach an engineer about like virtual spacing. I think it's so funny.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we learn a certain like way of looking at the world. And then when we're used to talking to each other in those terms or thinking in those terms, and then sometimes you're in a room full of people who like don't have the same like design thinking or the same background, and then you sort of express something to them a certain way and they're like, oh wow, you just like unlocked something for me.
Yeah,
but even for us, it's good to hear like how other people see the world, right? It's like important because designers are supposed to be able to interact with like all kinds of people.
Yeah.
But in terms of even like my own like interests as a designer, kind of like working in education really made me think so much more about like spaces for learning. And now that's it's obviously it's always relevant, but like today it's just this like big burning question as a candidate for a job or as like a future designer. It's like a new skill that we have to suddenly like, you have to have an opinion on this thing and like know what other people are saying about all of this. So I think that's like, you know, in terms of professional development, that's another thing to think about is, so how do we sort of keep up, or like in our work or like our part-time endeavors and like things that we're doing, how are we learning about all of these things?
Yeah. I mean, like, I think everything we've been saying is just like our perspective, and I'm sure other people have other views on things, but I think hopefully what we're saying like speaks to people in like a relatable way, because I think a lot of my peers, at least, Chitika just like crossed her fingers, and I think a lot of my peers at least feel similarly, but yeah. Yeah, are there any other like things that you've done related to professional development, I guess? Any specific things you've done? Imagine I'm the interviewer. What have you done over the summer between graduating and now?
Well, as you may have noticed on my resume, I did get, I'm not going to be talking like this. I don't know why I'm pulling like the LA
Valley Girl right accent.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a whole other story, but that's because that's how I taught myself how to speak like an American. And a lot of people on TV have like this so Valley Girl. Anyway, oh yeah, so I got accredited as a lead green associate. Thank you. So LEAD stands for, well, you know this, and the interviewer would know this, but to the audience, LEAD stands for leadership in I just took this exam.
That's so funny.
And I know what it stands for. I can do this. Okay. LEAD stands for leadership in energy and environmental design. I was gonna say that, and then I just completely this absolute brain fart. That's so funny.
But you know it, so that's all that matters.
I do, yes. Anyway, LEAD is LEED, leadership in energy and environmental design, and so you can get accredited as somebody who is quote unquote expert is a tough word, but like is knowledgeable maybe, yeah.
Or like aware of how it works.
Exactly. Yeah. So LEAD is like basically built. It's not like law. Obviously, when buildings are constructed, they have to meet like the code, like the building code, and there are certain like minimum, sort of things that a building has to do in terms of like how wide is the stairway, or like how many elevators are there based on how many people use the building, et cetera, et cetera. But you can aspire like to be more than code compliant. And then there's different like certifications that buildings can receive. So LEED is one of them. And then there's like different types or like versions of LEED for different building types, or for like new buildings versus existing buildings. And then there's like, you can be LEED certified or silver or gold or platinum. So it's like a point-based rating system. So depending on how many points you achieve, you can be LEED certified or whatever. You can have a certain level of LEED.
You as in like the building.
The building. Yeah. And so people who take who study LEED and then take the exam can be LEED accredited professional. So I have like the first level of certification, which is Green Associate. And then if I decide to, if I take like the next exam, then I can be LEED accredited in a specific like type.
Like category.
Yeah. So you can be like, well, the next thing is like LEED AP, but then you have, which is accredited professional, but then you have to choose like, which thing you want to be accredited in. So we'll see. Yeah, but
It's
I took that
exciting.
one exam. I passed it. Yeah, and it was awesome because I was well, I've told you this stuff, but I was like just kind of passing the practice tests.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to get like an 85 or whatever, and I was like 86.
How was studying for that? Like, as someone who's like not in school.
Oh, forget even not being in school. I mean, architecture school is so like test not heavy.
Yeah, that's true too.
And the last time, and I used to be, I mean, like if you went to like a school that's like somewhat selective, you had to be a good test taker, even if it was for like standardized testing. So everyone like that we went to school with has kind of gone past that of like, yeah, I like aced the SATs.
Or like has like a basic knowledge of how to take a standardized test.
Exactly. Because especially when you're like just fresh into college, like everyone's been testing so much. And then we came into this program that was like textbooks. What are they? I feel like we've had like maybe 8 textbooks over 5 years. It's incredible.
And some of them you only use like a few chapters of
exactly.
that textbook. So.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I mean, I am like a history minor, but even then it was like very little testing after second year. Like I was just doing a lot of like writing and reading, you know. But yeah, I hadn't taken a test since I think like our modern architecture one, the class with
like
Kai.
Second year, third year?
Yeah, second year spring or whatever. And I kind of like didn't do great on that test because
tests are hard.
I panicked. No, I absolutely remember like absolutely lost it in the middle of the test. I was like, ah. So the last test I took was that test. So I was not feeling great. I was like,
but you passed.
But it
That's
went
all
well.
That matters. Yeah.
Yeah, I passed with like a 96. So
that's a pretty good score. I would say. I mean, I don't know the comparison or the average, but it sounds good to me.
I think so. I think 85 is a pass. I would say that's safe
pretty good.
Pass.
Yeah.
I felt good about it. I don't know what people actually score. So, but I feel like 85 is a fairly high like passing score anyway. That's like
like you have to score relatively high. That's a B.
Right. Like a B plus, yeah.
Which I mean is a good thing because I'm sure you do want like knowledgeable people with this accreditation. But yeah. That's exciting.
Those are my things. That's my interview answer. What about you? What have you done besides your
I've done
cool
a couple
part-time
things.
stuff?
I mean, like my part-time stuff is not really architecture related, so if I talk about it to anyone that's in architecture, they'll be like, "What? What's React? What is front-end development?" But
what is React?
I know
what front-end development is.
Front-end development is basically coding and developing what you see as like the interface, the actual interface. React is, oh my god, I'm going to completely this up, but I'm going to completely screw this up. Sorry, I don't know if we're cursing on this.
Yeah, no, we're not, and you can cut that out.
Okay, I'll like bleep it. But React. React is oh my god, okay, I'm going to look this up because I don't want to screw this up.
That's fine. I'm glad you also.
It was made by Facebook. I know that. Okay, it's a JavaScript library for building user interfaces. So I know what it is. I don't want to like mess up the actual description.
JavaScript. Okay.
Yeah. So React is like it's a platform that I think Facebook made and like helps maintain to create applications for like whatever it is you need. So the company I'm working for uses React. It's like not like the most newest, but like the most commonplace and newer and like constantly like added on to kind of platform that like everyone updated maybe most. Yeah, and it's really like intuitive kind of in a way. I'm not going to go into it, but you learn a lot about like how coding front end works with it. Cool. So yeah, learn that. That was a rough time seeing as I really don't have much JavaScript experience. But other than that, what have I been doing?
Your mask.
Oh yeah, I was going to talk about my mask. So my sort of like hobby over the past few years is I've done a lot of sewing. That sounds like such a grandma thing to say. But
trendy.
It's trendy, yeah, sure. I've done like a couple of fashion shows with my friend Michael. Shout out Michael. And with Hi, Michael.
He followed us. I hope he listens. Yeah.
Hi, Michael. So with that, I've gained like a lot of sewing skills. And a lot of people since like the pandemic started and stuff have asked me why I haven't made like masks and stuff like that as with like all my scraps and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I didn't do it really initially because I had no like need for it, and like there was a lot of other stuff going on at the time.
Right.
Yeah, but then when I got home, obviously with like a lot of time on my hands, I was like, well, I kind of want to start this mask situation. I wanted to make masks for my family and stuff like that. So I thought about starting an Etsy. Well, I have an Etsy, but I thought about like starting a listing on my Etsy for masks. And yeah, it just kind of went from there. So I make and sell masks and donate the proceeds to whatever organization the buyer wants or an organization of my choice. And so far I've made like almost like 90 masks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sold maybe like, yeah, about 90 masks. And then donated about $375 or something like that.
That's
to various
awesome.
organizations. Yeah, I mean, I can pull up my list of them. Hold on.
Wait, so like I'm placing an order today because
Oh my god,
I got
yay.
paid. But yeah, we love Friday payday.
Yeah, but it's been a really fun experience for me. I mean,
That's
it was really
awesome.
stressful at first because like when I first launched it, I got a lot more responses than I expected. Which is obviously like it's fine.
Sure.
It's, I'm happy to make them
That's
if
better
people
than,
want
yeah.
them. But I'm basically donating what's the percentage? Let's see. Like 90% of the money that I make from it, or 90% of the money coming into me.
Profits.
The profit.
Like
so,
after your like cost is covered, right?
Oh no, I'm donating all the costs or donating everything after the cost. So the cost
Right,
is
that's
like
what I mean.
10%.
Like after your cost is covered, you like
donate the rest, which is about like 90%.
You're donating all the profit.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
Which normally rounds out to about $22 for a 3-pack. On Etsy, they cost $24. So with all the costs and everything, I've donated about $375. Let me see. Yeah, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 15 orgs so far. And then I just donated a couple more today that I haven't like posted or put on there. Those are for like the Lebanon and Beirut aid, stuff like that. Yeah, but I was really like super pleasantly surprised by the response for it. Yeah, people were I mean, I figured people need masks anyways, and I'm not like trying to make money off of it. I barely like break even anyways. Don't tell anyone that, but I barely break even. So I just figured it was like a good use of my time. And I had a lot of scrap material that would have otherwise gone to the landfill, so I figured why not use them for some good, basically.
That is very cool. Wait, do you still have that scrap from that dress of mine?
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna place a custom order today.
I love that.
And I'm glad you mentioned that the recent ones have been going to like relief funds for Beirut. I think that's a very cool thing to like for you to be able to promote, you know, because
yeah,
people are still getting masks, very much needed, and then we can sort of respond
to another thing. Yeah,
I know we're not going to like talk about it today, or like that's not like this is not the episode, but I read that it's the third most like devastating like explosion after Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's
insane.
I'm
like, did you see
so
like
scary?
I mean, I've seen everyone's been like
the impact map,
the impacts like maps like of like New York or DC or whatever. It's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible actually. Yeah, like incredibly like terrible, but like it's
really hard to. Well, we can talk about it another day, but it's also I think like the impact maps that are putting it in cities that people are maybe more familiar with, like say on this side of the world. I think that's what
it completely changes things,
helps people understand, right? Because
like the one for New York basically directly obviously covers the island of Manhattan, but like way out into New Jersey as well as upper New York. It's incredibly terrible. But yeah, so like I guess my side hobby, or like my part-time job, if you want to consider it that, even though I'm not really
Your
making money from it,
entrepreneurship
is
endeavors.
yeah, it's like I'm kind of trying to like learn to run a business, quote unquote, and then also I'm trying to do some social good at the same time, because I'm stuck here where I can't really go protest. I can't really like do anything other than donating money for like things. So that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
I think
That's
really
my
cool.
interview answer.
That's
Would
a great
you hire
answer.
me?
I would hire you. I was just gonna say that before you asked me, but I would hire you.
Thank
Would
you.
you hire me with my accreditation?
Yeah, of course. Over a candidate that doesn't have one, like me. So.
Oh, you're good. I just also like, I really respect the like effort you have going on with the masks. I think that's very cool. Yeah.
Buy them on online.
Etsy.
On Etsy, yeah.
Well, you have an Instagram account. We can
so my Instagram is craft and seam. It's just craft and seam. And you guys can click on the link in the bio and it'll take you to my page. I took the listing down for a little bit before because I had something else to deal with, but it's back up now, so check it out. Woo!
There will always be things to donate money to.
Yeah, especially right now. So.
Oh yeah. But also Selena is really good at what she does with craft. So I think that's very cool. I will now that I've committed to it like publicly on this podcast, I will place an order.
Yeah, I'm expecting one later today.
Yeah.
And you'll probably get it
custom.
Yeah, you'll probably get it before our next episode recording, so.
How exciting. I can do a review.
All right. Sounds good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I guess like we don't really have like a lesson necessarily. Well, I guess it's like try new things, make use of your time. Say yes to things, and if you have skills or yes, and if you have like skills and an opportunity comes up, just take it. And you never know what you might get from it. All right, thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.